Hey guys, what's up? It's Chaos Uchi here, and I'm here with Law Runners episode 3. We have some exciting news to go over. But just before we go over the news today, I just want to give a big shout out to Mushu Report. I used them and I've been using them even before any of the sets came out, like pretty much after D23 as soon as they had their website up. I've been using them for news. They're really trustworthy source. They have an awesome YouTube channel, so I'll put links to that in the description on today. So I'm joined by, if you guys just want to introduce yourselves.
Yo guys, it's SVN Shippy here, or Frank for people that know me in person. Played a little bit of Lorcana, interested in watching how it develops. Some of these leaks have led to some quite strong opinions from some people we know. But yeah, I'm sure we'll go over them. Ben?
How we doing? My name is Ben. You can call me Neb. We'll go by Neb in that one. I'm 1-0 against SVN Newsman, and yeah.
Bruh. Alright, Josh.
What's up, guys? It's Josh. I'm back, and I'm probably going to be the one giving some hot takes on this.
Cool. I'm excited to hear your hot takes. So before we jump in, I just want to quickly go over what Floodborn characters are. So as we know, we have Storyborn, Dreamborn, and Floodborn characters. So Storyborn, obviously self-explanatory, kind of just characters as they are in the show. Dreamborn are kind of like cool reimaginings of characters, like this Winnie the Pooh in his crack honey heaven that we can see on the screen. It's just kind of more of a jokey, heavily personified and exaggerated version of the Disney character, which I pretty much enjoy. And then we have Floodborn. So as far as I know, all shift characters seem to be Floodborn, and I believe Floodborn as a name, if we're going to deconstruct it, is basically flooding, like a flooding of ink, and like, you know, kind of characters such as like Big Tink, when she kind of comes out, you know, it feels almost like a tide change in sort of how the match is going, and I mean I can kind of see that, but yeah, it just seems like it's something exclusive to shift characters. But we'll go into the set reviews, set reveals, and then we'll kind of hear from everyone on all of this. So if anyone wants to just chime in as well. So first of all, we've got the box art. So we have Beast. We have, I think, does anyone who know who this is? It's from Alice in Wonderland. I forgot her name.
Queen of Hearts, isn't it?
Queen of Hearts, yeah. And then we have Raya from The Last Dragon, I think. And then Tiana from Princess and the Frog. And Merlin. So I think the biggest bait on this box is Raya, because obviously, as we'll get into it in the card reveal, she seems like quite a vanilla character. And it's weird that she's not a shift character on the box art of Rise of the Floodborn. So I believe like all of these, I actually don't think any of these characters are shift characters, right? So I mean, from the ones that have been revealed. So I think a shift version of each of these characters exists within the set. Otherwise, for me personally, it doesn't make sense that they're on the box. Yeah, cool. What do you guys think of the box art? I know it's not like a big topic, but I do think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's quite a shift away from the previous box art.
Yeah.
I think in my opinion it's probably better art than Chapter 1.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the way they've edited it, but it feels like more part of the actual box art instead of, like, I feel like the first chapter kind of just felt like cards slapped onto the box. Well, I feel like this feels a bit more, I don't know, like cohesive together, you know?
It's part of the narrative.
Oh yeah, like that's also a good point to go over. But have you guys seen the sort of teaser trailer for this set on like social? I mean, it's not anything big. I can try and bring it up in a sec, but basically it's just like a 5-second video, sort of showing like the Floodborn areas and stuff. I'm just gonna quickly try have a look for it, but basically I feel like a narrative is starting to form within Lorcana, which is pretty nice to see. That it's not just sort of the same old thing over and over again. And that I think the story will progress, and other things like, you know, there might be a Dreamborn set, there might be a hero set, there might be a villain set, and stuff like that. So we'll move on down to the start decks. Ben, I'm actually gonna want to hear your opinions on the start decks and the sort of color combinations. So can you take it from there? Have you got anything? How do you feel about the start decks, bro?
I mean, honestly, in my opinion, the Gaston one I'm liking way more than the other one, just because of the art style that they've done on the bottom of the box. And I think it's really good that they've got that kind of card background from their card. But in general, it looks like a more darker side of the set that's coming out, and I'm definitely a big fan of that, to be honest.
Cool. Just to quickly show the trailer. I mean, it's nothing big. It's literally just this, pretty much. So
But it's very much a teaser than anything else.
yeah, I mean, but it does show like a different location than the Great Illuminary, so which we haven't seen as well before. So I feel like it's somewhat important, if you get what I mean. Probably to like the overarching story, but yeah, we'll go. Does anyone have a favorite of these two? So like, okay, so Ben's told us he likes the yellow blue one a bit more. What about you, Josh?
I'm going to side with Ben on that one. I think the yellow blue deck would probably be my preferred one.
Cool. Frank?
Out of the two from the leaked cards that we saw, yeah, I think I would also prefer the yellow blue.
So one thing that I just want to quickly say, and I think it's quite interesting. I mean, I think for you guys that have been there for more of the locals, we saw that these color combinations actually performed very well in the starter deck formats that we've been. So for the viewers who don't know, we've been playing in a kind of semi-constructed format where you're allowed to use any cards from the starter decks and the starter deck card pool, but you can combine any colors and run 4 of a card. And basically, it seems in that format that yellow, blue, and purple or silver have been doing quite well with the sort of draw power from purple and removal from steel, because quite a lot of the steel removal package is in the start decks, and then with the yellow and blue having that good mid-range sort of interactions with Maximus and other cards, but also just being able to quest for a lot, because there's quite a lot of 2 lore pit plus characters in those card pools, and they're able to sort of accelerate a lot more faster than most decks are within that limited range. So I do think it's quite a cool color combination. Obviously we've seen Ruby and Emerald kind of get cropped out here, which I actually don't hate, because I feel like those two are quite powerful color combos as is already, but also they're very powerful mono colors in themselves as well. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but we definitely have like a lot of stronger cards in those two colors, I believe anyway. But yeah, we'll move on. So we have a new product, which is the Disney 100 range. It's just like a sort of new kind of alternative product to buy. It has 4 booster packs from the new set, and also some alt arts from the old set 1 and from the new one. So I have some images loaded up on these. So we have Maleficent, we have Maui, and we have Genie and Stitch, right, from the first set, and then we have Elsa and Mickey from the new one. So this is just some pictures, but yeah. Josh, obviously we'll start off with your opinion on this, because pretty sure it's a spicy one.
Yeah, so when I first saw these, I kind of wasn't impressed. Because of the branding along the bottom and the general design of the card, I did think they were going to be the new enchanted cards. But if they're going to be alt arts, then fine, fair enough. And if they're available only for this one specific product, again, that's absolutely fine. I'll probably be buying it anyway. But I just don't think the art style of these particular cards are that great compared to what we've seen previously in set 1, but also in some of the other leaked cards for set 2.
Okay. Neb, do you wanna go in on that? Do you have a favorite?
I would say like a favorite out of all of them, either Genie or Maui, in my opinion. The Elsa's probably the bottom. As the card itself looks okay, but I just don't think the artwork itself is like outstanding to me, or like stands out the most. Like Mickey's like kind of generic as well. That's how I see it from there. But yeah, and then like Stitch and Maleficent, decent. But yeah.
Cool. Frank, do you have a favorite?
I think I agree with Neb. It's the Genie at the top. The rest, yeah, Mickey looks like Mickey. Stitch, I'm not a fan of, really. I'd say that's close to the bottom just because I don't like the flat art style on a Stitch. I think Stitch looks way better when he's not flat.
No, I get
I
you.
mean, obviously the art style is art style, it's subjective, so I'm sure there are plenty of people that like the style. Just not a fan.
I don't know if these cards are going to be like textured at all as well, but if they are, I can see that sort of Maleficent with the sort of edges over here, just kind of looking pretty cool with like a foil on it.
Or even the Genie's kind of wisp around with the bits around the Genie. That would look quite nice.
That'd look pretty cool. I do think I get what you guys are saying about the Elsa, but I don't know if you've seen her art from the new set, and I think this art is definitely a lot better than it. But that's just my opinion, so we'll get into that. In terms of choices, I don't really hate the choices that they've done. So if you noticed, all of the ones that they picked from the first chapter seem to be cards that quest for 3 pips. So I think that's quite interesting. Yeah, so literally Elsa's the only one on here that's not as well. So, but she already has a shift character, so maybe it's a tease for something towards that, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, we'll go into some more information. So we'll just get rid of these now that we've seen them. So there's also the new treasure trove. They haven't really given us much more information on this in terms of what's going to be inside. I just really hope that there's some plastic deck boxes in there, because the paper ones that they put in the first one is just really bad. They're pretty much unusable in my opinion. But yeah, does anyone have any takes on the new treasure trove?
Is the side of that bit, is that Beast or is it a different character?
No, so there's I'm pretty sure that's actually Jasmine's tiger from.
Right.
I think so. That definitely looks like. Oh, no, I know what it is. So there's gonna be Jungle Book in this set as well. Jungle Book characters.
Okay.
So that's the tiger from Jungle Book. Yeah, I don't know if it talks about it anywhere, but there's like a few characters that are definitely sort of been announced. So I'm pretty sure it's Pinocchio as well. So we're gonna get Pinocchio, Zootopia, I think too, and
That'd be cool.
that's just off the top of my head though. I'm hoping they'll be mentioned in one of these news articles. But yeah, so those are like three sort of big IPs that we haven't seen anything from, and then obviously you have more Alice in Wonderland and Beast and stuff like that too. So I mean that's in terms of products. I actually think these starter decks, just to randomly like cut in quickly again, but I do think they look cooler than the other starter decks in terms of packaging as well. And based on the sort of main characters that they're picking, so what we discussed in last episode, they kind of do look stronger than the first ones too. I think they chose the synergies of the colors a bit better, because I mentioned to Alan that a new player, like let's say you're getting new into, like you kind of missed the first wave of Lorcana and you're like, oh, set 2, let me hop in. There's sort of that you playing one of these star decks versus someone's already pre-made set one Ruby Amethyst deck. You're not really going to have a chance, you know. But so I was saying to Alan, they're definitely going to have to think about sort of making starter decks a bit more stronger in terms of having relevant cards for people to be able to actually compete in. I mean, our store has like, we're sort of splitting off into. Sorry, shout out to Manuscrew, by the way. But yeah, we have more of a casual sort of format that anyone can kind of come in, sit down as an open play, and then they can just sort of have a good time. And then we have like a Swiss format for more competitive players, or people sort of have more cards and they're ready to build competitive decks as well. So that we actually haven't had a full constructed locals yet. This Friday will be our first, so probably in the next episode we'll sort of talk about that and how that went as well. But yeah, I definitely think they have to think about making starter decks relevant for new players so that they're not just sort of coming into the game and just getting completely, you know, no one likes to fight a one-sided battle, if you get what I mean. Yeah, but that's sort of all the information. The last thing is the playmats, which I think actually look pretty cool. And then on the playmats, they've sort of kind of revealed a beast that has lightning around him. So this kind of ties into the theory of the box art beast, because I'm sure this is a shiftable version from the normal one, if I had to guess. Or it could be...
It does not look like a normal beast.
Yeah, it does not look like a normal beast. I think the Winnie the Pooh mat looks really cool. I do have to say. I'm very tempted to probably get one.
Yeah, just give us proper deck boxes and then...
Yeah, no, I mean, like, these types of deck boxes are pretty okay. Like, if these were in the treasure trove, I'd be more than happy to buy it. It's just the treasure trove ones that are bad, in my opinion. But yeah. So we'll move on to the cards that got leaked and revealed, and we'll go over them one by one and sort of their implications. Oh yeah, here's the list. Thank God it shows it. But so Rise of the Floodborn will include cards from the following shows: so Jungle Book, The Great Mouse Detective, Pinocchio, Zootopia, and Raya the Last Dragon. I mean, I'm pretty excited for a Pinocchio card. I wonder how they'll sort of do his lying effect in the game. That'd be pretty funny. Yeah, like I don't know.
What, tell a lie, gain 3 strength for the turn.
Yeah, or something like that. You know. Yeah,
I can see them doing some funny flavor cards. So Pinocchio seems like one that could be done with that.
Yeah,
I feel like they'll quite happily do some flavorful stuff as well as like the more serious card effects.
Exactly, yeah. Pinocchio is like kind of a wacky character, so I mean you can't really take him seriously. I think that's sort of the whole point of him. Zootopia is really interesting. I'm kind of interested in how they're going to integrate it into the game, because obviously Zootopia is quite like a 3D-ish animation, right? So
yeah, but they have already done that kind of with Tangled, Rapunzel.
Yeah,
Elsa, that was a 3D film, and then the card artwork's all 2D.
Yeah, I think Elsa as well is like a big one. Obviously, Frozen was all 3D. So yeah, it's quite. I don't know. It makes me happy to see them sort of integrate in a nice way. So this is Winnie the Pooh. He's nothing to write home about. But he's a 5 cost. He's inkable. He's a 5/5 in Amethyst. He's Dreamborn, Hero, and Sorcerer. So I think the Sorcerer thing will come up a bit later, but there seems to be a lot more Sorcerers in this set, and obviously quite a decent amount in Amethyst. So maybe it's hinting at sort of future Amethyst Sorcerer sort of support. And this card's basically Jumbo Chikiba, but a little bit better because he has one more damage. Like he can deal 1 more damage. But I think the real cool thing about this card is literally just the art. I think this is one of the nicest arts in the game so far. Don't know if any of you guys agree, but I definitely think this card
Yeah, 100%.
slaps. Yeah.
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 I'm definitely going to be getting a spare of that card just to use as like a bookmark.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want like a foil version of this, so this probably just
Ooh.
have like, just have value to it just because of the character. But yeah, I can see like a foil version of this slapping so hard. We'll move down. So I mean that card's nothing crazy. It was probably good that we didn't start off with a crazy one. And then we've got Mickey Mouse, a friendly face. I think Ben, after playing me, hates Mickey Mouse because every time I use Mickey Mouse, I'll do his little aha kind of noise. It's pretty funny. So let's just talk about this card quickly. So this card, he looks like he's sort of bringing someone into the Great Illuminary, which it kind of ties into the first one, right? Also his stat line. So he's 6 cost, he's inkable, he's 1/6 with 3 low pips on the side. I can't help but sort of think of Moana when I see this card because it kind of has it literally has pretty much the same stat line except Moana's 5 cost, Mickey 6. So he's just out of range of being just in timed out early, which is probably a good thing. Otherwise, I think this card might be a bit too broken. Not that I think it is broken, but I do think it's strong. Then you have his ability, Glad Your Hair. Whenever this character quests, you pay 3 or less for the next character you play this turn. So I think a cool combination you can do with this is if you do manage to keep him out on the board and you have 2 bodies, like this is your second body out, you can pretty much play Surface Stitch straight away and just draw 2 cards, which is pretty cool. Has anyone got any opinions on this card? I mean, we can go around. So Josh plays a lot of Amber, so how do you feel about this card, Josh?
I like it. I'm probably going to be running it. I think the 6 cost is absolutely fair for what the card does. Because if you did get this out with just in time, as you just mentioned, it would be stupid. Because you essentially would be getting out a 5 cost card as well as a potential 3 cost card for a grand total of 3.
Yeah.
The capability with this one, there's a lot you can do.
Frank, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely a good card. I feel like cards like this are the reason that a lot of people will definitely be running guaranteed removal in their decks a lot more. Well, because like you just can't let this card sit on the board. You have to deal with it the turn it comes down. Otherwise, it's going to get your opponent a lot of value because quests for 3, and then yeah, you can pay 3 less for the next character you play this turn, which means as long as you have the ink for it, you can pay, like say, if you've gone up to 6 ink to play this guy, which most people probably will have, you can then play something that's as big as a 9 cost for 6 as well. So, not that I think we really have any 9 costs.
9 drop.
Yeah, apart from the 1 card at the moment. So maybe there'll be more higher cost cards, which will incentivize using cards like this Mickey to make it easier to play them, which will just make this Mickey even more of a target.
Yeah.
So like, he is definitely a high priority removal, like another card that will be further down as well in this leaked list, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think one thing worth noting is I'm pretty sure, I mean, I might have to get a ruling on this, but because shifting counts as playing a card, I think you'd be able to knock off 3 off of a shift as well. So potentially you'll be able to have a lot more ink in your ink world to play around with for a turn. So using this with, for example, Rockstar Stitch, you could potentially spam board like crazy. Ben, do you have any opinions on this card?
Yeah, I think it's grim. It's a card that can definitely is going to be used in meta, in my opinion, just with what it can obviously potentially have. Obviously, we don't know what the rest of the set is, but as of right now, if you can get a 9 cost out for 6 and remove something, I think it's just grim with that, plus the 3 lore that you quest with it. Yeah, I mean, the only way you're going to remove that is within either 2 turns with your characters or your removal. That's that. So yeah, I think it's going to be one of the best cards on the set.
I do kind of feel like I'm inclined to agree with you to a certain extent. My only
Okay.
problem is where it's at in terms of how much it costs to be played. So your
Yeah.
opponent already has Dragonfire turned on at this point, right? So if they're just sort of careful with playing around certain things, they're just able to just completely remove this off the board.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think this is just sort of a shiny sort of hit me target for any form of removal that most decks are running. I do think that it does have strong synergies with bigger cards, like even just the Brave Little Tailor Mickey as well. I think that's pretty cool to be play off of this as well. So you're just questing for 7 next turn if both characters live. Just pretty creative. Like, think about how much pressure that puts on your opponent. But yeah, I think so. Obviously, if you quest this once, then play out Brave Little Tailor next turn. I mean, like the turn that you requested, sorry, and then you quest again. That's a total of 10 lore gain. That's literally halfway to winning the game. So I definitely think removal needs to be a thing, but I think I think like we've all sort of changed our opinions, and especially a lot of people changed their early opinions on how you should build decks, because Lemon Lime Aggro was like sort of the hot new kind of deck when it sort of became a thing, and I feel like it's not doing so well now because everyone is teched for it by running removal. I think removal will be here to stay in this game. I think it's going to be a weirdly a key part of how this game plays, if you get what I mean.
For sure. I mean, there are so many cards that, like, already are high priority removal targets. So there will always be some new ones added into that mix. So you will just always want to have some form of instant removal.
But then I do want to say it's not all doom and gloom for people who don't want to play removal heavy decks and stuff. Like, this is bait, right? Like, your opponent has to get rid of this. So if you want to make them get stuff out of their hand, you play this Mickey and then you play something you want to after, as well. So
exactly, you can do that kind of stuff.
I feel like and it's an SR, so it does reflect an SR sort of rarity, in my opinion. Anyway, I think it works like how an SR should. So we'll move down. So we have Zero to Hero. I think this is a very interesting card. Potentially a replacement for Just in Time. Potentially a stronger Just in Time. I love Hercules. I really actually weirdly like this song. I think all the Hercules songs bang. This is one of the better ones. The card art's great. The fact that you can sing it is great. So it's singable Just in Time as well. I think this card is nuts. I can see this card being ran in like the Aerial Still song deck as well.
Absolutely. Is it just another good song for Amber? Like, it's just like, okay, cool, thank you. The only problem with this one is obviously it's uninkable.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the good songs are uninkable for a good reason.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a fair uninkable. I mean, like, it had to be uninkable. If this was inkable, it's just definitely a 4-of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go around. So, Josh, how do you feel about this card?
I think it's a good card. I think it has the potential to combo with a lot of different characters. Like Rockstar Stitch is a perfect example of this. Obviously, with his shift ability to play out 2-cost characters or less, immediately suspend them to then draw cards. Depending on how many lore you have, how many ink you have to be able to play out these characters, you can really do a lot of damage on one turn.
Yeah, I mean, so I think like a really strong way to use this card is with like something that's going to replace obviously it's a card combo card, so like you do have to play this then play something else, so you are negating 2 cards, And something that answers that instantly, straight away, is Surfer Stitch. Like, if you can play Surfer Stitch for cheaper, he's just drawing you back up to 2, so you're not even like wasting any cards from your hand, if you get what I mean. But I do think it's interesting that it kind of does play into Be Prepared a little bit. So like, I feel like you have to kind of either use this quite early or use it in a smart way late game. I don't think it really has a mid to late game sort of place in the meta, if you get what I mean. This card, I feel like if you don't do it early enough, you're not taking advantage of, you know, questing another turn before Be Prepared comes down.
That's for sure. I mean, I think as well that you can use it to force a Be Prepared. It's like, say you have a hand full of like cards, but you don't want to play all of them because you will just get Be Prepared. If you have, I don't know, 2 bodies out on board, 2 or 3, you sing this with one of those bodies, then you play Surfer Stitch, you draw some more cards. Your opponent, if they are playing red, has to Be Prepared that board. Otherwise, you're just going to gain more value. So you can use it to force the use of it, and then you're like, right, cool. Now on my next turn, I can play these, kind of thing. So I think Amber, while the board blooding that it can do can play into the Be Prepareds, you can also use it to force your opponent to use Be Prepared. Otherwise, they will be punished next turn.
For sure. Yeah.
So as long as you play, you have to play around it smartly. Basically, you can just play around it and not play too many bodies, or you play a bunch of bodies to make them use it, and then you retaliate with better cards the following turn now that they can't Be Prepared them.
It can also like give you enough ink to be able to play like something like that Surfer Stitch, so you're not negging your your sort of hand size, and then play like You Have Forgotten Me to just rip Be Prepared out from your opponent's hand as well. So it's just like, I can, but I don't know, those are maybe 2 5-head plays, so I'll have to see how this comes out in testing. But I definitely think it's a really cool card. I really like the artwork for this card as well. So we'll move on, we'll move down. We'll move over to Ben's favorite card. So Ben, you can take it away.
It's definitely gonna be a great one. Like a fucking 6/4 attacking. I think it's brilliant, and you can ink it for 4. I think in purple it's gonna be a great card, and I'll happily use this in any like Amethyst deck. But it's still better art than the other collector's edition.
Oh, you like this art better?
I actually do, yeah. To be honest, I think it's way better art than the other one.
I don't know. I think the other one's better. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Damn.
But yeah, I mean, just in general, like I think the card's actually like, it's definitely playable. I wouldn't say it's bad. But having something that can attack for 6, I think is really good.
So, before we jump into how useful this card is, I just kind of want to go over some of the flavor of this card. It kind of, in terms of the story of Lorcana, it's really interesting that the flavor text on here says the power of ice may stop the flood, as in Floodborns, but it will help. It will help protect Lorcana. So it's really interesting that she's a story-born character, but it's also referring to the world of Lorcana. It also ties in with the Elsa that has the freeze effect, because she says like something like ice transported to a different land or something like that, and then luckily ice works the same everywhere. So it's kind of cool to see that certain characters are self-aware of their environment that they're in. But yeah, back to the usability of this card. It being 4 cost, I think is really important. I think it pairs really well with White Rabbit's Pocket Watch, because this is basically just a bigger Maui, and it being able to hit for 6 is nuts. You'll be able to get rid of pretty much any of the higher defense characters in the game. Most of them are like sitting at 6 health. Yeah, I don't know if it would replace Maui though. But the fact that it can quest after it's hit into something is pretty valuable, because like if you hit something with Maui and then you're not doing anything with him later, it feels kind of bad sometimes. I don't know if you've had that in your matches, Neb, but
I think it's very 50-50 in that situation, to be honest. I don't see it all the time, but I can see it sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a pretty good utility card. I definitely think it does see play in the Ruby Amethyst deck, especially as it's another shift character for Big Elsa to be on as well. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, Josh and Frank, you got any opinions on this card?
Not really myself, because I haven't played much purple.
Josh?
Yeah, I can
I'll second Frank on that. For me, because I haven't played much purple, this does seem more of a vanilla card. I mean, the Challenger +3 and doing 6 damage is pretty good, but I don't know. The 1 pip on it, I don't know. Some people will love it. I think some people will use it. I like to see how it is used.
I mean, at the moment I'm using Cerberus in my Steel Amber deck, and that's literally just because it's a big body that can kind of deal with any other big body. So I definitely think this will be used for things like that. I think it will be quite a useful card. I think maybe, yeah, because you guys haven't played this color, I think me and Ben can see a bit more that this is quite a useful sort of, not removal option, but with Ruby Amethyst you're kind of running, I call it interference, until you kind of get to that 7-8 sweet spot in your Inkwell, and then you start to dominate the game, right? So,
yeah, I mean, it's definitely there for clearance mainly. Obviously, having a lot of big bodies on your opposition's deck, having had this on your field and stuff like that, I think it's way more important for your controlling type decks. So yeah.
cool. So we'll move on to Merlin. So we have Merlin. He's 4-cost. He's inkable. He's 1/5. Again, another sorcerer. So that kind of ties into what I was talking about with Winnie the Pooh earlier. He quests for 1. He has an effect of when one of your other characters is returned to your hand from play. This character gets +1 or pip this turn. It's a really interesting effect. I don't see how this is going to be used just yet. Potentially mixed with certain cards, it can maybe be like something similar to an OTK kind of questing combo deck, similar to maybe the item aerial deck. But I think obviously Befuddle, I'm pretty sure you can use to bounce your own characters, right? So that's like a cheap option there. Then you have like Mother Knows Best and stuff. But this might be something that's a bit more of a gimmicky character, but he's on the box, right? So there might be a shiftable version of him that works pretty well as well, and maybe works well with this ability. Does anyone have any takes on this card, Josh? Because you're the hot take man for this video.
My thoughts are, when reading the text for the Battle of Wits, it could very well be that in itself is a bit of a teaser for other cards being released in set 2, and there could be more bounce cards than there are banish.
Yeah, I mean, we've mostly seen bounce in green and purple. I mean, Befuddle was like, wouldn't really, I guess it is a bounce card, but it's not like a massive one. And then obviously Mother Knows Best, then Genie as well. But yeah, Ben,
I think Genie's the only character that does it, isn't he? Because there could be more characters which have that effect. So this kind of would help streamline this card to be more powerful.
Yeah, definitely, potentially. That could be possible. Ben, you got any opinions, any views, any ideas for combos on this?
I mean, it's definitely a card it's not my play style where I bounce stuff back to my hand and stuff like that. It's definitely going to be interesting to have on the field, because do we have that much bounce stuff in purple?
Yeah, I literally Befuddle, I'm pretty sure, and that's it.
Yeah, like it's not that much. You'd have to kind of like combo with blue, because I think blue has a couple of things in it right now. But obviously, just being this card in like the second set, kind of shows there's going to be quite a lot of stuff that can bounce your stuff back to your deck. If there's not, then this card's pretty useless, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it could be setting up for something in the future as well. But
Yeah.
it being on the box, again, the box is cool, you know. Yeah, it has something to do with Floodborn, so I assume you'll be able to hopefully shift into this character and on top of this character for something cool to happen. But yeah,
I just thought about something on this. Obviously, he's a sorcerer, he's purple, and then you've got the magic Mickey, you know, with the brooms.
yeah.
With his effect, when a broom is banished, it's returned to your hand. So
That's-
would that?
It gets, so this is something I thought about earlier today as well. I mean, and I got corrected instantly kind of in our Discord, because I was thinking about using this with Dr. Facilier and his effect to be able to sort of take stuff back, but technically it goes to the banish area first, right, and then back to your hand. So unless we get a ruling on that,
yeah, I mean, from play would probably be the not banished zone.
Yeah.
Most likely. I can't see it being any other way.
yeah, I mean, I don't either, but obviously it's a new card game.
Yeah, exactly.
Some things work wacky in terms of like, you know, if you tactical retreat a Mother D Reaper in Digimon, it goes into your egg deck or some, you know, weird stuff like that. So you never know what's gonna happen in this game, if you get what I mean. People have amazing brains, and eventually we're gonna probably break the rules at one point, and then they're gonna have to, like, you know, ban or restrict cards or like fix things in post. So unless we get an official ruling on that, I don't see Mickey and Facilia being able to bounce stuff back. Otherwise, that'd be pretty interesting to have like a mill deck with the brooms and Merlin out. That would just be so, what a troll deck to run.
It would be interesting to see if this does get like an errata version in the future, or if any cards do. But obviously, that links back into what you were saying.
I do think he's gonna get a shiftable version, especially because they like put shapeshifter here as well. It'd be really, really sad if we don't get to shift into a bigger Merlin or something. So we'll move down. So now this is, I lied before about that other card being Ben's favorite card. This is probably Ben's favorite card of the reveals. So I'll let him take it away as the Amethyst expert. How do you feel about this card?
I would happily run 4 in my deck. Just have it on the field. If I can get it, the only downside is it's not inkable. But having that on the field and not having that many characters who can banish items, what is it, like Beast, and that's really it. But yeah, having that on the field, gaining 1 law each turn I think is great. I'm not going to say it's broken or it's like anything like that. It's good. I'd say like it's middle, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like this is kind of the team kind of wink wink nudge nudge on giving us just straight up control support, because with this card you're able to whiteboard, you're able to be prepared and not worry too much in terms of losing the law race, because you'll still have this item on board just to keep getting closer and closer to the win con. So I definitely think it's a strong item. I don't know if it's a 4 of. I definitely think it's at least a 2 of. But definitely makes cards such as Beast, which is sort of kind of already being run as a 4 of, and a lot of steel combo, like any combination with steel decks, just to be able to deal with Ruby Amethyst. But again, Beast only breaks one thing on play, right? So
if you have multiple, then yeah.
Yeah, and also they have to decide to break this or break Ursula's Cauldron and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a smart player, you're probably breaking Cauldron before you're breaking this. But it at least makes someone have to make a decision, which I think is really important. We have a action card which is just called Break as well. That gets rid of items too. That hasn't really seen play, but it might do because of these stronger items coming out.
I mean, if we need more than just Beast to start breaking items, yeah, I think it will see play. But right now, like, I haven't really had anyone have more than maybe one item out often? Because like you're committing a resource for a turn to play in these, which can feel bad unless we're gonna get cards in this set that play an item from hand that costs X or less when they quest. Then items can become a lot more playable if characters start playing them out rather than you paying the resource on top.
But doesn't Inspector Bell, or I can't remember her name, but the Blue Bell, which isn't the legendary one, she has a reduced cost when you play out items, right?
That's true.
Yeah, whenever you
So
quest.
there are already characters there which will help this item specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there's definitely kind of helpful even for the items, sort of OTK area deck as well. The only problem I see, I mean, like, I kind of agree with Frank in terms of that, but this is the perfect card to play before you be prepared, because you're not committing anything to the board that's going to get destroyed, right? And it's not inkable, so it's probably going to sit in your hand, and you're going to gain value off of it next turn instantly. So I definitely think that this is a strong item. I don't think it's broken like a lot of people think it is, and I think it's pretty fair. I think we're going to see potentially more item breaks in the future as well, so I'm not really worried about this card, if that makes sense. But yeah, we'll move on to the next one. So we have Rhea. So she is a 4-cost inkable. She's 5/3 and just an uncommon. So this card literally has the same stat line as Scar Fiery Usurper. So the one that comes in the star deck, I believe, as well. So she's just kind of a vanilla at the moment, and worst of all, a vanilla with the stat line that we already have. Now, why this card might be so important is, one, it's on the box art. 2, the set's called Rise of the Floodborn, so I can imagine we're getting a shiftable version of Rhea that's going to come in and probably clap some cheeks. But yeah, I mean, does anyone have anything to say about this? I mean, it's not really that discussable. Maybe you guys have any theories of what the Floodborn version might do, or what you might want it to do?
Thoughts really just mostly that it obviously trades up into like the 5-cost greens that are like the 5 HPs, 3 damage, maybe even 2 damage, so she can wipe them. But yeah, we already have a card that does the same job, so she is definitely in here for the purpose of being a shift target.
Yeah, I mean, her costing 4 to begin with feels a bit weird as well, though. I guess she is relevant because she's obviously, like you're saying, she trades well into things, so you're able to offensively use her in the beginning and not to worry too much about her being defeated in a challenge, because that 5 on her should put off your opponents quite a bit, since whatever they swing at, it's probably going to get banished, basically. In terms of what I'd like to see from her, I mean, I know it's going to sound weird, but her shift version is probably just going to have to be a control character, right? In terms of what she's doing. Because, I mean, that's Ruby's thing. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a shift character that makes your opponent lose lore as well. So, like, maybe something like that, too.
That has been a couple bits of Red's gimmick, hasn't it? Minus lore your opponent.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see something like that. Maybe not in the same vein as Aladdin, which is when winning a challenge, +2 to you, -2 to your opponent. Or maybe almost exactly the same. But we'll see what they do.
I mean, even if it was just like basically a stronger Aladdin with more willpower, more attack power, that in itself probably wouldn't be too bad. But yeah, I definitely think this is something to keep an eye out on, because 4 is a lot already with the investment of what the shift is for her. It's probably going to be something. I mean, the only time we sort of see characters like that is Tinkerbell and Elsa, right? And they're quite, you have your free cost versions of them, and then the shifted versions are quite strong in my opinion for both. So I think this will be a strong character, and probably like a staple. But yeah, we'll move on to the next card. So we have Dinner Bell. I think this card is like low-key a bit slept on. I think this is one of the stronger cards that got revealed for sure. Instantly when I thought of this, I thought of Maui, because you often trade up when you like swing a rush Maui over something, and usually it survives until the next turn, and obviously it's going to have some damage on it. So I feel like it's the perfect target to get Dinner Belled, personally.
I'd agree with
Ben, you got anything on that?
I mean, I haven't really looked too much into this card, to be honest, out of all the cards. I kind of like to flip this off.
So so it's uninkable forecast. You know what happens. You rest this card, you rest 2 of your ink, and you draw cards equal to the damage on that chosen character of yours, then banish them. So for me, Maui is a perfect target because obviously he has Reckless, he has no lore pips. He's kind of there to be a big body to hit things, and then basically hit 2 things and disappear. But sometimes when you've controlled very well, there isn't another body to swing into next turn, and I think, or you might not want to, i.e., for example, one of the new cards that we know are coming up, but often other green cards as well you don't want to swing into. So this is a good way of killing your reckless characters and not having to deal with the repercussions of them swinging, and just benefiting off of potentially drawing 2 to 4, because I think that's probably what you'll mostly be doing with Maui after you've used them. I think do you know another good target I feel like is for this? I feel like Maleficent, the 9-drop dragon, is, because it's so big and tanky. You don't feel bad swinging into it, and it could probably rack up a lot of damage on it as well. Your opponent might not want to even swing anything into it, because obviously it's going to take a lot of damage and probably die on swing to it as well. So I feel like it's not a bad target to use late game, just to get some more draw power and some more options to deal with the current board state. I think the fact that there's no limit on how much you can do with this, some of the tankier characters are just going to be so broken with the combination of this card. Card draw already in itself is really hard to do in this game. Cards like Rapunzel are so expensive because they let you draw, even though it's so conditional. I mean, this is about as conditional as Rapunzel is, in my opinion. Except Ruby now has access to it, so I think I can see this card being quite good in most Ruby decks. The only bad thing is it's not inkable, but I mean, you could potentially draw 4 cards off of it, so I can see why it's not as well. So we'll move on. We have Tiana. So I've been playing a lot of Steel recently. I think this card is a really good addition to the game. I think this card was super slept on in the reveals of this set. Not many people were talking about this card and how, in my opinion, how good it is. So it's a 4 cost, it's uninkable. Obviously it's a princess, which is important to you. It's a 1/4 and has 2 lore pips on the side. It has a new keyword that we haven't seen, which is resist. So damage dealt to this character is reduced by 2. So I believe that's in a challenge, and as well as action cards being used against her. So something like Fire the Cannons is basically dealing no damage to her, and others. It's weird that this keyword is in Still, but it seems to have the most negative effect against other Still cards. But what makes her really important, I think, is her ability. What you give is what you get. While this character is exerted and you have no cards in your hand, your opponent can't play actions. So with some decks and color combinations, that's quite hard to do, right? Obviously, we've seen a sort of blue steel ramp, bell steel ramp deck do quite well. and it's sort of cemented itself in the meta as a sort of tier 1 to 1.5 deck. I think this card ultimately works best with that deck because you're able to whole new world, potentially play out a couple characters from your hand, right? And if you can set this character on the field before you do that, you basically just play out your whole hand, and then you have things like Fishbone Quill to be able to ink more of your cards and the Ramp Bell. So it's actually quite easy to get all of your cards out of your hand, if you get what I mean, in order to get this effect off. So you could potentially build a big board with it and not have to worry about things like Be Prepared. But yeah, I'll let you guys chime in. So Josh, do you have any opinions on this?
Well, it's kind of things you've covered really, but the resist +2, I think, is an interesting choice. I get it, but at this current stage in time, wouldn't it just be easier just to give them the extra 2 health though, and then introduce this in a later set where you've seen much more, you've seen a bigger variety of cards which do different type of damages.
So I agree with you on this card in particular. On the other card we're going to see, I wouldn't. But I believe the idea of why resist is more important than health is that, let's say you had 2 Captain Hooks, right? They're both able to just swing over this if she was at 6 health. However, with the resist keyword being there, they're only able to do 1 damage each because she'll knock off 2 damage off of both characters. So that makes, and since her ability only works when she's exerted, I feel like that's quite important, especially because she's not dealing a lot of damage to other characters hitting her, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, like, if you think about it now, Moana, my queen, basically, but yeah, Moana is a 1/6, right? But literally your opponent just has 2 1-drop Captain Hooks and they're able to just deal with her instantly. So I can definitely see how this card is quite important in terms of having that resist keyword and it not being able to even just be chipped by a small character and then finished off with a removal action card as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point for why the resist is for sure on this. It's to deter decks maybe focusing on low cost cards that can just do like enough to take out 1 big card, because it means they want you to use another big card versus that card to get rid of it, rather than spam the board with small cards and then basically get value because you've paid less for those small cards than your opponent paid for their big one. That's always a bad thing. There's always, it means your opponent has to play around, that you could have small, quick cards to remove your big dudes. But, the occasional card having this kind of resist means that your opponent still has to make sure they pack in some big dudes or some just instant removal that doesn't deal damage and just says, get out of here. Like, if this Tiana got bounced or something, that's just, like, if it didn't get to exert before it's been bounced, you're then having to pay 4 again for a card that's otherwise dead in your hand because you can't ink it. So, I think it's vulnerable to other forms of removal.
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
there's
obviously there is super vulnerable to other forms of removal, even when it's exerted. We already have Genie, we have Hades, we have Maleficent characters that have on play removal. So those are not actions, so they're able to get this card off the field. So I do think it's fair. I think this card is literally just to slow down a control deck's Be Prepared. I feel like that's... So I don't know if it was intentionally made for that, but I feel like that's its best use. I can see it seeing a lot of play. Also, because now Still has access to more princesses, and Amber Still is already a popular deck combination, I think it gives rise for more cards like Moana to be actually introduced back into those decks. Because being able to restand this and then I don't know, hit something. That's another thing as well. You can do chip damage to characters with this card, potentially as well, and just not take any damage off of them, which is pretty cool. Like you can literally hit a Lilo for free with this card, and it does no damage to you, for example. But yeah, I mean, it's weird that it's in Still, and it sort of grab your swords, smash. Smash is only doing 1 damage to her if she's not exerted. Grab your swords. The big Tinkerbell, you know, they're not getting through any damage to her, which is pretty interesting. And it probably makes the mirror match now a bit more interesting and a bit more fun. But yeah, well, I think we've covered this card a decent amount. Also, it's a super rare, so I definitely think it gives off that energy too. So we'll move down. So we have the controversial card of the set. I know when a lot of people saw this card, they were like, "Oh my god, so broken, power creep." Nah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna play Lorcana anymore and stuff. Obviously, this card is a legendary, and it has an effect definitely that reflects that. So it's a 5 cost. It's uninkable. It's free, shifts for free, has 3 lore pips on the side. But what makes this card very broken is it has an ability called Thorny Arrows. Whenever this character is challenged, the challenging character's player discards all the cards in their hand. So not just one, like Flynn Rider, everything. First of all, I'm gonna keep quiet about this card because I feel like my opinion's a bit more tame on this. I want to go to Josh with the hot takes, then Ben, and then Frank. So we'll start off with Josh. How do you feel about this card, Josh?
Okay, well, get ready. I don't think I've got a hot take. I don't think this card is broken. I don't think it's incredible. Like, it's got 3 health, so Smash can get rid of it. That's it, done. It's gone. And if with such low damage and its effect, why would you even bother trying to attack it?
Damn. That was based. I'm very happy that you said that. Ben, have you got a controversial take for us?
No, I love it. I love the card in general. I think it's such a great card. But, like, yeah, fair enough, sort of Smash can get rid of it. But what, is everyone going to play Steel?
Well, seems like at the moment.
Well, right now, maybe. But for people like me, no, it's nothing. And
Bro, you care even less than Still does. You're like, Still... Bro, you care even less than Still does. You're just like, this ain't Cusco. Dragonfire. Like, I actually... So... we'll go to Frank before I sort of have a overarching opinion. But yeah, Frank, what's your opinion on this card?
Mine is similar to Josh. Like, the effects on it are insane, but the removal in the game kind of just let you just get rid of it. Again, it's the whole from some people don't like to run removal in their decks because they feel it bloats their decks, or they just don't like the idea of removing stuff. When that's part of a TCG, it's a back and forth between your opponent. You're gonna want to always have some removal so that you can deal with what your opponent does. If you're both just playing your side of the board, you're playing solitaire with each other there. So this card forces your opponent to have some sort of interaction through removal that isn't challenging, because if they've only bought reckless rushes, they just cannot touch that card, otherwise they just forfeit their entire hand. So yeah, I think it's a good card, very easy to remove without attacking. It's just a deterrent to attack it.
I mean, so I'm gonna have my opinion on this. I love Emerald. Emerald's one of my favorite colors to play at the moment. I think the real benefit of this card only comes when you shift her. And you have to expect. So when you shift, you're going to be at 3, right? You're going to have 3 in your inkwell. Your opponent should also have about the same. Let's just say, hypothetically. The most you're going to get out of this card is 2 quests. So you're going to get 6 lore off of her. So that in itself is pretty strong, right? But that's a combination effect. There's a bunch of other stuff to talk about on that. But her costing 3 is like basically just in time Cusco, right? Except I think Cusco is actually a better card than this. this card is very vulnerable to board removal. I do think her effect definitely reflects the legendary symbol on her, but her being uninkable when you already have things like Cusco, I mean, it's probably just going to lower your consistency quite a bit as well in terms of what you can ink. I think I don't know if this is going to be ran basically, and I don't know if it will or will not. I think this card is just at like 50-50 basically. I don't think, like I said, I really don't think this card is better than Cusco that already exists. Even the combination with it and Reckless, literally that dinner bell card that we just saw, things like that, just to pop your own character, just so you don't, do you know what I mean, have to fall into it. I mean, songs have always been a way to deal with Reckless as well. So if you can make any of your characters that have Reckless, or your opponent characters have given them Reckless for that turn, if you can make them sing a song, then they're unable to swing. So I'm really not bothered. I think this is really easily played around. You just have to not be a dum-dum. So you heard it first from me. But yeah, I think if you're new to the game and you swing into this, it's pretty bad. But I think experienced people are not going to be doing that. So next we have Cinderella. I mean, I'm really happy this exists as a waifu. Actually, as a waifu enjoyer, I think it's fair to mention that this is the first green princess character. So hopefully we'll get more colors, more princesses in this color. But yeah, we'll move down to Cinderella. So she's a super rare. She's 7 cost, inkable. She's 5/5, 3 lore pips on the side. She shifts for 5 on top of a Cinderella. She also has the resist effect that we saw Tiana have, and then she has another ability. When you play a song, this character you may challenge ready characters this turn. This character may challenge ready characters this turn. So specifically her. But I mean, is this our first black or grey? Question mark, Frank.
What first one that can challenge?
Unsuspended, yeah.
Yes, I don't believe there's another character that can do that at the moment.
I think her having the resist 2 is really, really strong for her to be able to. You just really don't mind if you swing it over an opponent's unsuspended character, or if you just quest. I think this character is pretty cool because if you don't have removal in your hand, or if they're sitting on like something like a Cusco. There was actually a funny game me and Josh had yesterday, but I'll tell you guys about it in a minute. But he, like, one of his last turns when he was really close to winning, he just played a Cusco, which should have won him the game. But if I had this card, for example, I would have just been able to swing over the Cusco, even though she gets banished as well. It's not really a big deal. At least you stopped your opponent from winning the game. So I think in those weird interactions when you're both quite close to victory and your opponent just plays down something that has a ward, I think it's really good way of dealing with ward characters, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. Because they can't just hide unexerted until they're ready to go.
That, and if they're playing the shield as well, I think this card existing makes Shield of Virtue not bad, but just definitely slightly worse, you know. If they have something like the small Aladdin or anything that is a shiftable character, which this set, obviously we can see that there's definitely going to be more shiftable characters. You're probably just using her to get rid of them as well while they're still small and not a threat. And with that resist 2, it's almost probably not going to do any damage to her anyway. Her having 3 lore pips on the side is very interesting, and it's just like if you have nothing on board, she's just questing, which is still a big amount to quest for as well. Yeah, Ben, how do you feel about this card?
I don't know if I'm being stupid here, but I was thinking, obviously, if you play multiple songs on one turn, does it restun Cinderella or not?
No. She doesn't restand.
Okay.
She's just able to hit characters that are standing.
Right. Okay.
So
it's still a great card.
Yeah.
With the resist on there, like with 2, obviously, if you can just clear out small bodies as well for free, But obviously you're missing out on the free lore that you can get from her as well. Either way, I think it's one of the best cards that's been revealed as of yet. So yeah.
Yeah, Josh, how do you feel about this card?
Yeah, well, I agree with what everyone said, to be fair. I definitely agree with what Neb's just said. I think this possibly is the best card which has been revealed in set 2. It does seem like it's going to be a very controlling card. Like, if you've got this card out, potentially you can just clear. I mean, granted, if you've got the turns to do it, or you've got cards which already stand you like LeFou, it definitely does seem like this could be a super controlling card.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that. I think why we think this is so strong is because, especially with, it actually kind of reminds me of the shiftable Tinkerbell. Characters that have more than one ability are just already going to be strong, right? We're really early into this game. The fact that she basically has 3 effects already in itself should make her quite strong, and other characters we've seen have that sort of thing, like that big Tink. And other characters like Cusco that have multiple effects, they're already like pretty cool. I think the fact that she's inkable just makes this card just so strong to run. I think it's obviously support for the Still Song deck, which is pretty cool as well. Literally has direct synergy with it being ran in there.
Yeah, it's another top end for the deck that can be its 7 cost end gamer.
I'm just really interested to see if we get a different Cinderella, potentially a lower cost one.
Either a steel or an amber one.
Yeah, because we have an amber one already, but she's 4 cost to play. So I mean, she's not the biggest, but there's things like that. So like you could have Moana out, for example, and then this Cinderella and just go to town. Basically, you'll be able to quest and hit in the same turn, which is pretty cool. And then we'll move on to the next card. So we have Gaston. He's 6 cost. He's uninkable. He's 4/4, and he can shift 4. He has, instead of develop your brain, guys, he has a developed brain. So when you play this character, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may put 1 into your hand, put the rest at the bottom in any order, and he quests for 3 pips. So I mean, I think this card's pretty strong. I'd like to hear from Josh on this, because he is the biggest blue support, I think, out of all of us. So how do you feel about this card, Josh?
I like it. I mean, to be fair, I like the artwork on this. That did surprise me when I saw it, and gave me better impressions of Gaston. But yeah, I think having the integrated develop your brain into it is a really good effect. I'm glad that they still have the bottom decking as opposed to trashing cards when you're looking at them. But yeah, the 4 health, 4 damage, nothing to grumble about. It's pretty strong. I feel like people will target this character though, because it is quite weak compared to others we've seen, and it is questing the 3 lore.
Okay, that's pretty fair. Shippy, how do you feel about this?
It's definitely a good 6 cost. Fair for it being uninkable, to be honest. The stat line for that cost is a little bit to be desired, but because of it having 3 lore when it quests and its shift plus also its skill, if its stat line was like higher, it would just become an instant problem card. With this, I'm assuming we might see some other Gaston that might be a lower one as well. So obviously we have a couple other Gastons already, but maybe we'll see one that can tie in a bit better with this one.
Yeah. Neb, do you have an opinion on it?
I mean, it's definitely a good draw power card. Just having that draw power is definitely essential in this type of game. Sticking in a red-blue deck is really good, in my opinion, and then obviously having 3 pips you can have from a 4/4. I think overall it's strong. Obviously we just don't know what other Gaston's going to be in the set. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it directly ties in with having synergy with that, with the Pepsi color deck. But I also do think it's quite interesting that they've already paired him with Amber, because I'm pretty sure that Lafau and Amber reduces the cost to play a Gaston. So this could be a part of a really sort of lore aggressive kind of type deck as well, where you're consistently able to just get big quests in with high pip characters, but also that deck has a problem with keeping cards in hand, because obviously you're playing something, inking something, and it doesn't have necessarily a lot of draw power. So potentially, I mean, it kind of does, but I mean, you guys get what I mean. More draw power is not a problem. And then being able to play this potentially for a bit cheaper with a Lafau out, you're able to not only play a nice free pip character, but you're also able to benefit from not losing a card from your hand, which I actually think is really important in this game, especially because you get to pick 1 out of 3. So you might get the removal you need, or you can just, it adds decision making. I think the more decision making that's added to this game is only going to help better show how skill expressive it can be. But yeah, I think we've covered this character a decent amount. So I think this is the last one out of the reveal. So once we cover this, we'll be done. But we have the Queen. She is a 5-cost inkable. She does 4 damage. She has 3 health. She's shift 2, so she can shift for 2 on top of one of your other characters named Queen. As far as we know, we only know 1, which is a 5-cost in purple. She has an ability called Who is the Fairest. Whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -4 damage for this turn, and chosen character gets +4 this turn. So you're able to make some really nice trades with this card. You're able to just completely or heavily reduce the amount of damage one character is doing, and just get some free shots in. Potentially a big threat on your opponent's side of the board. And she does have 2 pips on the side, so I think we'll go around again. I haven't had Frank, I think, take a first opinion on something here, so I'll let you have the floor on this one.
Sure. So I think her ability is pretty big, just allowing you to basically trade into anything for no risk. Like, if they've got something, say the big red Maleficent dragon out exerted, you quest with this character, give that thing -4 and give one of your 5 damage characters +4, and then you just take out the dragon in one swing. I think this card will combo a lot better with cards that have like Reckless Rush, or just Rush in general, simply because it will let you set up the turn beforehand with having this card out, ready for a card to come in with Rush. So maybe even some combo with the Pocket Watch to give one of your characters Rush the following turn as well. I think, pretty much you'll just have really good synergies with cards with Rush if you want to deal with a big body and then take no loss and force your opponent to deal with the fact that they're down a card for nothing.
Cool. I'll have Josh chime in next, because he is a big Amber player. So how do you feel about this? And do you see its uses in any of the decks that you sort of or kind of imagining in your head already for next set?
Oh, for sure. Like, being inkable for a start makes this a must for the decks I'm thinking of. But also, it follows very similar to what Frank was just saying. This makes your 1-cost characters tanks. Like, you can trade a Stitch, for example, which is 1 cost. It's only got 1 pip on it. It's 2/2. That becomes 6/2. You can easily take out one of your opponent's higher characters. Like, if your opponent's got a Moana, a Rockstar, Stitch even out on their field, it's gone if it's exerted. A 1-cost character doing that, I think, is going to be so much fun.
Cool. we'll go off to Ben, and then I'll say some final thoughts, and we'll wrap up. But
I think with the shift 2 is ridiculous. Is this like the first character we see where when you shift, it's going to be lower than the actual cost that you're playing on top of?
yeah, so obviously we don't know if there is another queen that is lower than 5 cost, but this is the lowest shift cost, I believe, in the game so far.
Yeah, I mean, just with the ability itself, obviously you can just build ramp decks around it, like, just in general. I think having ramp decks in this kind of like game as well is really, it's definitely decent, because your opponent's going to have to catch up with that, and having the ability to try and catch up and try and clear it is going to be like, good luck.
So I'm just going to quickly go over some things. First of all, I really hope that they give a queen, really low cost queen, to Sapphire, and I hope they've teased that they're going to do that by combining her with Gaston and Star decks, right? Because there usually is shiftable character versions within the same Star deck. I mean, we saw that with Aladdin, with there being both the red and the green Aladdin in the same Star deck. But I think this card, potentially, if they make a queen that is a lower cost, could be really cracked for a Sapphire Amber mid-range deck. I think that if you can play Lilo turn 1, Simba turn 2, and then potentially on your third turn play something else, and then shift it into queen, like, bro, that's just, or even just, she's actually a target for just in time as well. And using Simba to kind of swing over something big, potentially, and just being able to still, like, I mean, Simba swinging over something big is pretty cool, because he's probably not going to take any damage, and also he's going to just be in his bodyguard mode by doing that. So I think it has a lot of synergy with him out of all the characters I know so far. I definitely can see it being used in ramp decks as well, like Ben was saying. It might actually be the tool that ramp decks need to be able to be a bit more competitive, to be able to deal with bigger bodies that your opponent sort of puts out that can hit your smaller characters turn after turn. But yeah, it actually kind of reminds me of Maximus a little bit, but it's weird. It's kind of like support but on quest, which I don't hate, because it's good to, I mean, support is on quest as well, but I mean, it just kind of reminds me of support, if you get what I mean. But yeah, no, I think on quest abilities are really strong. On play and on quest are really good. I think it's why certain cards like off the top of my head, I think Elsa, the Elsa that's 3 cost that has the ability to freeze, I think is a strong ability. Obviously you have to exert Elsa to be able to do that, but I think a lot of people don't manage to get it off, or end up questing with that character because there's nothing to exert, because your opponents exerted their board for questing as well, if you get what I mean. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So I think we'll just wrap background and just have we'll just go in order of sort of how we are on Discord, in terms of how does everyone feel about set 2 leaks as a whole, or not leaks but reveals as a whole, and are they looking forward to set 2? So we'll start with Josh and then we'll work our way down. So Josh, how do you feel about
for it?
Yeah,
I'm so excited for it. I think they've got some really interesting art styles for a lot of the cards, which is one thing I do look at with the TCG. If the art's crap, I'm not likely to want to play it. So, and I do like the way they've gone with it. It does have more of a Magic vibe, which I think they'll be fine, but probably should be a little bit careful on. But the characters that have been revealed and the items, etc., all look like a lot of fun and can be a great addition to existing decks, as well as brand new decks, which will no doubt be created.
okay. We'll go over to Neb. How do you feel about the reveals, and sort of what are you looking for? What are you excited about? Are you still looking to play the same colors you are on right now, or are you looking? Has any of this sort of made you feel like you might want to switch colors?
I think overall the set's starting off really strong with what they revealed. It's definitely, for some weird reason, it's definitely led me to go towards blue just because of the Gaston. I think is a really cool concept. Going on from there, but it's either like a blue steel kind of game. So I think overall it's going great, and I just can't wait to see what's going to be coming up next.
Cool. We'll go over to Shippy. Any sort of final thoughts? Anything that you've seen in particular? You've been like, oh wow, that's pretty good. Are you looking to sort of play the same sort of decks that you've kind of tested in terms of Pixelborn? Because I know you haven't.
Yeah, I think I will probably stick with Amber Steel for now, because it looks like they are at least introducing enough cards that there will be new kinds of decks, even if they are the same like color combinations, or they will just improve upon like existing decks with some new cards like that Cinderella or the Queen. Both of those are potential things to look into adding into Amber Steel to just push the songs even further, because I think that Aerial from set 1 will stick around as long as they keep giving us good songs. You can combo Amber with something and then she just stings like all of the stuff for so cheap.
Yeah, I mean, like, weirdly, I think, obviously I've been playing a lot of Amber still at the moment. I think it's actually my favourite deck at the moment. I'm quite happy to see it have almost direct support, which is pretty good. I mean, I can't complain about that. But, I mean, I think that's just showing good set design, because obviously they kind of didn't really reveal these decks and these color combinations as being a part of a specific sort of color combo that you should run or you should try. I think that Ruby Amethyst has direct support as well. I mean, with the spell book, with the bell, I think items are really good for that deck, because obviously once you be prepared, you don't really have anything on board besides your items, which is really good for value in terms of being able to catch up with the lore race and stuff. But yeah, I think we're just seeing good game design. I don't know if they've in particular just shown these cards because they do synergize well with decks we've seen already, or if they've actually designed them to be that way. But either way, I mean, it's good. It's showing that they're interested in the game. It shows that they're interested in sort of the meta game and supporting us as meta players, because I think in a weird way we might almost be a rare breed at the moment in terms of wanting to play competitive compared to a lot of people I know. I feel like there's a lot more sort of a casual mindset with this game, which is not a problem at all. Obviously there isn't any big events at the moment, but I just want this game to be something fun. Obviously let's be honest, let's just be blunt, this game is bread. It costs a lot of money to play, and I like to just play with things that I'm investing in to a high level and standard that I impose on, even on myself. So I mean, it's nice to see that there are combos coming out and more synergies, and the ability to pilot is definitely increasing. But yeah, does anyone else have any final thoughts on that?
I think you covered pretty much everything there.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. So thank you guys for watching. This has been a bit of a lengthy episode, but I think we did a great job of covering everything in depth, and we'll probably come back. Hopefully there'll be some more reveals. If not, it'll be more about our experiences with our first constructed locals. But yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.